All right, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. Today I'm really excited. Actually, I wanted to get Danny in here before, and I wasn't quite sure if he was going to have time. So I just asked the other day, and Danny wrote back, said, "Yes, I'd love to do it." So Danny Bell, thank you so much for being here and for having this conversation with us.
Oh, thanks to you, Ryan. Thanks for inviting me. It's an honor, man. Thank you.
Thanks. So tell
Yeah,
me,
huge honor.
for people who don't necessarily know who you are and what you do, I mean, you were recently
hmm
top road and you're getting a ton of press, but tell us who you work for, what you do.
Okay, let's do it. Well, like you say, I'm Daniel Bel. I'm from Argentina, South American country. Um, Now I'm working for Sideshow Collectibles, which is basically a collectible company. But I start my career, I think, almost 15 years ago. I don't know if you want to
Let's do
you
it.
want.
Let's do it. I love to go
Yeah,
all the
I
way
do it. I
back.
do it. Okay, cool. So, uh, this is just I will try to uh, say a few words about what I did in the past, how I started. Um, my first job connected with the 3D world was an engineer. I started in an engineer office working with AutoCAD. I don't know if you guys know what is AutoCAD, but it's a kind of software basically for grading plans.
Hmm.
Uh, it's a very technical software. So I,
Architecture and design plans, things like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
exactly, floor plans, and you can do 3D markets too. So 3D models and those stuff. But it's a little bit, basic. So it's not like 3ds Max or any other software. So it's more basic. But that was my first steps and into this kind of 3D world. So, uh, but at that moment, I realized that I didn't like too much work with something too, not too artistic. I mean, so later on, I moved to Arch visualization, architectural visualization.
Hmm.
I work as a technical director there, but I did, of course, lighting, modeling. Uh, that was my first time with the 3ds Max. Uh, we work in all in. I don't know if any other companies of RGBs use another kind of software, but 3ds Max is, I think, is the most well-known software for RGBs renders. I think so. Uh, it was a huge jump between doing boring things with the 2D lines and those kind of stuff to move to another software with a huge environment with so many tools and so many cool stuff to that you can do. So uh, but I think I worked a few years, 3 4 years,
Hmm.
and I decided to keep pursuing my kind of dream, which basically was to uh, always was to try at least try to work with characters, but I never had any talent in terms of I don't draw, I don't paint, um, I don't have any kind of talent with my hands besides to using the computer. So some friends told me, okay, Danny, if you don't have too much talent or any kind of talent, if you don't
Wow.
draw, or yeah, if you don't, how to paint, if you don't know how to paint or do anything with your hands, I don't know if you can create a whole character with you need to know anatomy, proportion, all those stuff. They are very difficult. And if you can draw, if you can do some sketches, how you will become an sculptor or even a character artist. So it was very frustrating because I was young and I thought, okay, so my career is just will be always do renders, and that's okay, But when you're looking for something else, it's not nice that someone tells you, okay, you can't. But I think that that word "you can't" pushed me to try, to keep working on my dreams, on what I wanted to do.
Mm.
So I moved to I applied to a video games company here in Argentina. It was a small company for AAA video games, but for cell phones. It's what was the name? Game of Game of. I don't know if you know Game of, but it's I
Mm-mm.
think it's a French company. Okay, so I then in Game Love I work as a lead animator. I became lead animator. I don't know why, because when in that company I started doing a lot of things like modeling and doing renders too. But I don't know why I ended working in animation. So I learned some animation stuff, and I worked for a few years. No, I think 2 years. Yeah, 2 years. But then the company uh, disappeared, and I lost my job, and I received an offer to join myself into a team of motion graphic designers and
Mm.
advertising company. So
And how long
and
ago
now
was this?
I think it was 10 years ago.
Mm. So the industry was
10 years.
still really like, if you knew software, you really had a job. Like they were still very hungry for talent, right?
Yeah, of course. But the things in Argentina, in South America, are a little bit different from States or Europe.
Hmm.
Here, if you don't have, of course, now it's different. But at that moment, 10 years ago or 15 years ago, if you didn't decide to go for a profession like, for example, doctor or architecture or engineering or lawyer or any of those,
Hmm.
people think you will starve. You will never succeed, be successful in anything if if you don't if you don't choose any of those things, any of those careers.
Yeah.
So it was difficult because you don't know uh, how much knowledge about any software that you have, because the companies here was very young companies, small companies. Any of the biggest companies that now we know in the market wanted to have freelance artists at that moment, at least. Now it's different, but at that moment it was a little bit different for now. So I moved to this advertising company. I think it was those years I worked for, I think 4 years. Was very, very stressful. I mean, working. I don't know if you ever work for advertising or you know someone who worked for advertising, but you will work so many hours a day doing a lot of things
Mm.
that your brain will you will burn to your brain. But I learned a lot of things, so many things, and I tried ZBrush for first time. It was my first time with ZBrush, and I discovered this new awesome tool, because my first organic models, my first um, 3D models characters, I did it with polygons, and it was so difficult to do a whole face or even a whole character with polygons. So when I put my hands on ZBrush, and I couldn't believe how easy it was,
Mm.
to sculpt something. I mean, it wasn't easy, but the transition between uh, modeling things with sub, by subdivision or poly by poly or anything, any kind of techniques to just put your a brush on a sphere or whatever, and create a form, create shapes. It was awesome. So at that moment, I knew this software, and I decided to keep going to my dreams, to become a character artist.
Yeah.
But at that moment, I realized that if I didn't have knowledge with deep knowledge in anatomy and proportion and movement and rhythm and all the things that you need to do, you need to know to become a sculptor, I will fail. So I started buying books and doing courses and tutorials and all the things that I found on internet or whatever, to to put my knowledge, my anatomy knowledge in another level. So I think that was my first connection with the things that I do now.
Hmm.
With the time, I did my first job, my first sculpture. It was beowulf. It's basically a beowulf holding a huge snake.
Yeah.
I have that work my station. And with that work, I was selected in the top of the row of ZBrush Central my first time. So I said, okay, maybe it's possible. Maybe I can do it. So that was my first time, with feel connected with this feeling about, I can do it. I can do it. I will try. I will keep trying. Um, so I left everything. I left my the company where I was working, um, and keep. I start doing sculpting whole day, practicing. I I uploaded my works to Facebook, and people start liking it, commenting it, and sharing my works, and I received my first job offers about to make sculptures.
Hmm.
Uh, so that was the way that I started this career
That's awesome.
in this profession.
So,
Thanks.
if you don't mind, I'd like to unpack and talk a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of things to unpack there. Number one,
Hmm.
that concept that you didn't have any talent,
Yeah.
and alas, we are looking here. So, anyways, before we get to this idea of talent,
Okay.
I'd like to understand a little bit about the first couple of jobs that you started to get, because I deal a lot with students and people who are looking to get into the industry or trying to get that break. So, um,
Yeah.
let's start first with, you've posted around and now you're starting to get job offers. What kind of job offers were those?
Okay. Well, the first jobs that I got was commissions, basically from people who said, "Okay, Daniel, I love what you do, and I would like to have one statue in my house. I can send it, print it. I can print it this thing, um, then uh, and then I have more work of that for you." So I
Hmm.
say, "Okay, yes, we can try." So the guy sent me like a comic cover of, I think it was Sentry. Yes, it was Sentry, a Marvel character.
Yeah.
So he told me, okay, you think you can do this? And I say, okay, yes, I'm sure I can do it. So I did it and I started working on it. Um, and then I posted again, and other people from different parts of the world, collectors or fan of Marvel and DC or whatever thing, they started asking me the same thing. It's like commission works. It's like a fun art but paid. It's like you being contract for a friend or a
Hmm.
collector or whatever he wants, who wants to a sculpture or whatever, a bust or anything about with you. I think that was my first connection with the work, the professional work.
And how did you think about, or how did you deal with pricing when you're at that early stage? Any tips,
Yeah,
for what you charge? Because there's a million different directions for people. Do you charge hourly?
of
Do you
course.
do you just do it gratis? Because you're so hungry for recognition. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, yeah. That was the difficult part, the most difficult part, to put, a price about
Hmm.
your work. Uh, because in the other companies that you have a salary depending on how many hours you work per week or monthly. But in this case, you need to put a price to one piece. So I started asking to some people, some Facebook friends that I knew. Uh, they work in the same, in the same path, in the same career, in the
Yeah.
same industry. Um, some people never, you know, answered me, and some of them was very nice and told me, okay, Daniel, depending on what kind of market are you aiming for. So I say, okay, they told me you have two markets. The European market, they like more miniatures, those tiny statues, like 55 millimeters,
Hmm.
very tiny. And you have the American on the Asian market, which basically are such more bigger, um, like 1/4 scale, 1/6 scale, 1/10 scale, or dioramas. So they told me, okay, you can put the price. If you work for the miniatures, you can ask for, eight 800, no, 500 euros, which I don't know how many dollars are, but I think they are in euros. I don't know how much it is, but
Hmm.
500 euros to 800 euros. And for the statues, you can start asking for like I think my first work I asked like $600. Um, it was very cheap. With the time, I realized it was uh, like a gift for the guy, because nowadays you can charge like between 8,000 to 10,000 for a piece, for a statue. Of course, not everyone. You need to have experience. You need to have something to show to the companies and people who want something from you, that you can do it, and you have the knowledge and you have the quality they are looking for, um, and you know about printing. I mean, you don't need to have a 3D printer in your house, but you need to know that the piece that you are working will be printed. So you need to know the whole process. And now I think someone who wants to start in this profession can ask for, I think, $2,000. It's a good money, and then you can keep growing and keep asking for more. And I think an average price for 1/4 scale statue, which basically is something like this I have in my desk.
Hmm.
You can ask for, I don't know, 8,000, 10,000, depending, of course, like I said, of how much quality you can show through your sculptures. Um, I think, yeah,
Awesome.
between depending, of course, you can be contacted by companies that they don't want to pay too much, or people that they don't want to pay too much. So they can tell you, okay, I have, I don't know, 1,000, because I can't pay too much. Uh, so it's time to you to decide if you do it or not. But if it is your first work, um, and if you get paid for that, it's okay, because you can use it as a portfolio, and at the same time you will have some money. So you can, okay, you can say, okay, I will start my career. I know sculpting. I know how to sculpt this, but I don't have any statue. This will be my first statue for collectibles. So you can't ask for 8,000, because nobody will pay you that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, totally. Great. That is fantastic. And I really appreciate the detailed info. It's just really hard
oh,
for people to get a sense, of that. So the first
yeah.
jobs were from collectors and for collectibles. And then did you end up starting to work for different companies? And what was the roadmap to get you over to Sideshow?
Well, yeah. To get yeah, to enter the Sideshow was, I think it took time. It took me time.
Mm,
Um, I think I would say. For trying to apply to the bigger companies, the first thing you need to know is that your portfolio is your best instrument. So, um, like we always said, or another artist, when we talk about how you can get a job in the sushi industry, it's the same. You can take the same example. It's like, for example, if you tell me, if you ask me, okay, I want to play to Santa Monica Studios to work on video games.
Hmm.
So if your portfolio is not full of video game stuff, you will never can you can aim to that company. So the sideshow was like, okay, I someday I want to try to apply to sideshow. So when I did my first job. I say, okay, I need to clean my art station and put just only things, only stuff, only collectible stuff, because I wanted to caught the attention of the companies. The first company that I caught their attention was XM Studios. It's a Singapore company. Um, they, I think that the first, let me think about it. Oh yeah, I when I knew that XM Studios was a great company, I sent a message by Facebook because they didn't have another kind of way to connect, to to send the message,
Hmm.
and they saw my portfolio at that moment, and they told me, okay, Daniel, your work is good, it's okay, but you're not prepared yet to work with us because it's not good enough. So I say, okay, cool. So that means that my work is awful, this and it's a disaster. So I keep working, um, and I did some another jobs. I did another commissions, and then they put in contact with me again and say, okay, Daniel, do you want to work for us? And I say, okay, it seems that my portfolio it changed or something new caught their attention now. With Station happened a little bit similar because I met a guy who his name is Martin Canale. I think you know it.
Oh yeah.
Um, so one, I think two of no 4 years ago, I was giving a talk in a place, and Martin shows up, and I talked with him. So he told me, okay, Daniel, I like your work. Maybe are you considered to work for Sideshow? And I said, if I get considered, I would love to work for Sideshow. It's my dream. It was the first thing that I thought when I started this profession.
Yeah.
But of course, he told me this chance, this possibility. Another was like, okay, then you are hired. So he told me just consider it and work hard, and if you keep working hard, Sideshow will put put attention into your work.
Mm.
You. So I think that was what happened the last year or 2 years ago. I start, sending emails with with Sideshow, with some people in Sideshow, with the art directors, and we basically, um, Martin let me give me this connection, help me with connecting with the people, and I think when they decided, they say, okay, maybe we can try it. The first piece was Captain America that I did it 2 years ago. So um, it is not easy when you want to, when you aim too high, because when you start doing this, if you work in animation, I think you will love to work with by with a digital
Right.
or image works or any of the bigger ones. If you work in video games, I'm sure you want to work with Santa Monica or Naughty Dogs or Ubisoft or any of those. And when I started this, I say, okay, I want to work for Sideshow, but it took like 4 years from when I started for until I had the chance to work with them. But of course, Martin Canali really helped me to make this possible. But I think if I never, if I never put so much hard work in my and passion in my statues, Martin never put attention on, on me too. So it's like a path that you need to walk.
Mm, that's awesome. I love to hear that. And even though Martin is, so much a part of Sideshow, he couldn't guarantee you a job. It's literally you guarantee it yourself, huh?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, tell me. I want to understand now this idea of talent because you said you came in and you didn't have any talent, you didn't have any drawing, and I totally get that because even today, if you
Yeah,
talk to old school artists, they'll say, of course, that drawing is like it's the foundation. You have to learn it. But
yeah,
one of my teachers in the Pennsylvania Academy, I mean, he couldn't draw his way out of a paper bag, but he could sculpt the crap out of things. He was just beautiful sculptures. But tell me about your growth as an artist. So you're doing arc viz, and now you're doing full on figurative work at really Sideshow's the highest quality collectible. I mean, some of this stuff is just flat art. From
yeah.
anybody's perspective, in my opinion. I mean, I have one of Martine's old Batman, and just beautiful. The way these
It's
things
beautiful.
work.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love them. So,
I love them
talk to
too.
me about that process because, I'd assume there's a lot of anatomy you have to learn. There's a lot of stuff you had to go through to transition from arc viz to figurative.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, I when I choose to work in the CG industry,
Hmm.
and I work, like I said, in different companies in different fields, but inside of me it was this kind of, like I said, dream to work on characters. So um, when I had the chance to try it, I did some tests, I did some sketches and some characters, and I found out that it looks like crap. I didn't know why, because I didn't know that I need that anatomy is a must. At that moment, I didn't know. So I say, okay, I need to find some books. Um, my father-in-law is my father-in-law is a doctor. So I asked him for some books. He gave me, but I found out that it was too technical. Too technical. I mean, you you can you can't, if you are an artist, you can read those things. So I said, okay, what I will do if I need to learn anatomy and from a book for medicine, I can do it. So I discovered um, that it was anatomy from artist books and a
Hmm.
lot of amazing anatomy artist books. So I tried to got with all the books that I found, and I read it. I tried to understand how the anatomy, how the muscle works, how not just because I have some people that say, okay, Daniel, I love anatomy, and I will send you some pics about what I did. They send me pics, pictures, and what I can see is just copying what you see in the pictures, in the echo models, on anything. People, people, I think the people believe that you just need to understand what you see, but it's not just like that. You need to understand how the muscle works. Um, of course, if you want to create a pose, because you will never have the chance to work with a live actor. I don't know what to say, live model, or you will never find a proper reference for exactly the same pose that you want to do. You need to do. So, in order to do that, you need to really, really understand anatomy. So, like you say, the transition between art viz or video games or even motion graphics was really hard because uh, nothing. anything of what I learned in the past really work in this new path, you know. Uh, so I did some anatomy courses, and of course I did some of I watched all of your videos, of course, Ryan.
Thanks.
You really, no, no, yes, I'm telling the truth. You really helped me to understand a lot of things. But of course, I did another courses, um, and it really helped me to understand. Even nowadays, people tell me, "Okay, Daniel, but now you you don't practice anymore, or maybe you don't study anymore anatomy because you know anatomy." And I'll say, I study anatomy in every statue that I know that I do. Every figure that I need to work, it's a challenge because they have different poses, you have different proportions. Even in my style is a mix of realism and comic style. So, but even with that doing that, even if you don't do pure realism, you need to understand anatomy. Um, so I don't know if I answer your question because I get a little bit lost, but
Yeah, no,
you
totally. I mean,
tell me.
basically, in essence, you applied yourself to the study of anatomy.
Yeah,
Right.
it was a self-taught.
Yeah.
I learned everything as a self-taught, downloading videos and buying books and practicing. Of course, I think that that's the hardest way and this low way to learn something. But when you don't have the chance to, to make a huge trip, a huge trip to another place, another country to
Mhm.
study in a proper academy, or take courses in another part of the world. If you really want to do it, if you really want to keep progressing in your career and make your dreams come true, you just need to sit down. If you have, I always say, if you have internet, you can learn anything. If you really want it, you can do it. I always say that because I really believe in that. I did it. I mean, I'm still studying. I'm still learning, and I think that I will learn. I don't know for many years. There is so many things I need to keep learning and keep polishing in my style, in my anatomy, in anything, everything that I do.
Mm.
I found so many mistakes in the previous statues that I did, and when I finish one statue, for example, if I finish now on a statue, I'm sure the next one I will look back and I say, okay, why I did this on this piece. It's like something that you need to keep uh, sharpening your eye. It's like you keep polishing, you keep growing your criteria. It's so important to understand that you really need to know that your criteria to you say criteria, right? Criteria,
Yeah.
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 Creature, okay, criteria is so important to understand what things are you doing good and what things are you doing in the bad way.
Totally. Okay, got it. So along those lines, then maybe we can segue and talk about the like how do you start a figure today?
Hmm.
And we can just talk in like just the general terms and whatnot. But how do you start a figure now? How do you start to block it out? Do you do sketches? What's your process?
Hmm. Well, at the beginning, I think my 3 or 4 statues I started from a sphere
Hmm.
because I really wanted to to using as a practice at the same time. But now I have a low poly mesh, which basically is very low poly,
Hmm.
with but with all the proportions done. Uh, I use for these comic characters. I usually use 8 head proportion, 8 head tall proportion. So to avoid all the time the same work, because it's a little bit tedious if you need to do it from a sphere, doesn't make any sense to always start a new field. Of course, when if you wanted to do a practice, of course you can start it from a sphere or from a cube or whatever you want. But when you're working for a company and you need to be efficient at the same time because you can take half of a year to make a piece. You need to accomplish some targets, uh, some amount of pieces per year. In my case, I started from a low poly model to avoid, and I said low poly model because I don't want to be all the characters like look the same because that would be a little bit disrespectful for a collector. I don't like the idea to have um, a basic model with all the anatomy done, and then I started from that point because something that could happen is that every all of your models will look very similar, and I really want to make every model unique, every statue unique. Of course, as of course, you can say you can tell me, okay, but every statue you can start from something more with more form and shape. But I always try to look for new reference for new kind of bodies. We don't have the same kind of apps in our stomach. It's different shapes. I mean, you know what I mean? Different shapes of your pectorals, of your arms.
Hmm.
So I try to start from something low, and then when adding and blocking anatomy, um, posing. One question that that people always ask me is it is if I start from a T pose or I do the blocking in a pose. And I honestly use T pose for general shapes and proportions, and then I pose it and I work the anatomy on the pose. Because as you know, if you if you put all the anatomy and details in a T-pose model and then you use transpose or any other way to pose it, everything will break it, and you will have double work to redo it. And I don't know. I don't like that way. It takes a little more time to do it from my way, but it looks. I think at the end looks a little bit better.
Cool. Okay, got it. So you start with a low res, you kind of build it out. Do you use the clay brush or standard brush? Do you have like a brush that you like?
I love clay brush, clay tubes.
Clay
The clay
tubes.
tubes. Yeah, I use a lot clay tubes. Dam standard, of course.
Hmm.
Um, Clay buildup when I need to do huge volumes. Of course, move topological. And honestly, not too many, not too much. Yeah, I think the basics one. Of course, if I need to do a detail, a specific detail, maybe I use another brushes. But for anatomy, with clay brush and smooth and move, I think you can do whatever you want.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground, and I think we've got a couple of questions in terms of what it takes for somebody to, let's say, for example, George is asking what it takes for somebody to work in Naughty Dog. So one of the things that I'd love to see if we can start to answer
Hmm.
is this question of, well, this is what I teach people in the boot camps, and what I teach them is, there's what we want as artists, and then there's what people are looking for to hire us for. And
Yeah.
the people that are looking to hire us, they have their own checklist, and it's different than what we might think because we're artists
Of
and
course.
craftsmen, and so we're down our path. So in your experience now, if somebody wants to be a digital sculptor, what
Yeah.
are the things that they simply must do? Beyond all the theory and the craft and the execution, from
Yeah.
just our artist brain side of it. What is it that they need to really show people that they're professional. So why don't we start with that? Like, what are some of the things that are essential for you to present in ArtStation for somebody to just
Hmm.
realize that you are a professional and not just an amateur?
Yeah, of course. Well, I think the main thing is first you need to focus on what kind of field do you want to work, because it's not the same kind of details that you need to put in a statue, for example, in a 1/6 scale statue, than if you want to work, if you want to become a digital sculptor for movies or for video games. It's not the same. I think the people who are looking uh, for those kind of jobs will take into account if you really understand um, uh, the way they work.
Mm.
So if you say, okay, I want to become a digital sculptor, but I don't know exactly one kind of field. If I want to work, I don't know if I want to work in collectible field or in the game industry or in, I don't know, if for movies. So if you want to post just digital sculptors, I think first you need to be really aware about anatomy. I think is a must, depending of course the style that you want to to work. If you work with a kind of comic style like this pieces, is you don't need to know. For example, in my case, I never did a couple of times, but I never did portraits likeness. So, but you need to know how to draw, to sculpt a face. So in that case, you don't need to do, like, for example, Bill Carquera or Jose Diva. They are great likeness artists. Um, so maybe they can be hired, but to do likeness. So they put all the things. I think if you enter to the Bill Carquera portfolio in our station, you quickly know that the guy know how to sculpt faces
Right.
and likeness, and so people maybe could be hired to do, um, and they work on um, collectibles for example, for those statues like Hot Toys, or I can remember the name of the company.
Hmm.
They do perfect statues from movie characters. So you are aiming to do that. Now, if you just wanted to work in this thing, your staff, you need to have full of staff of those things, well presented. For example, I will show you some renders of. Let me show you approved. Okay, you can show something like this. I'm not saying this is the way you need to show it, but it's the minimum thing that you need to do, because you can say, okay, I don't know how to render in another software like V-Ray or Keyshot, but you can use the ZBrush VPR to make clean shots, clean renders of your sculptures,
Hmm.
showing the details, showing the things that you can do. So I think you can create your portfolio in base of um, clean images, well presented, uh, with a nice display. And even you don't need to paint it. I painted just to show them how it looks, or how it will look. In this case, for example, I put some images in my portfolio about some image process that for example, I think this could be this thing, this amount of details could be you can apply it to any kind of CG industry for sculpting. You can apply it to video games. You can apply it to movies. But if, for example, if you want to apply it to video games, it would be awesome if you have this high res pic next to the low res with the all the maps baked.
Mm.
If you want to say, okay, I want to aim for these kind of jobs. In my case, I don't need that. So all the time I upload this kind of stuff, this kind of photos, kind of renders.
Well,
Uh,
let's unpack one of these images if you don't mind.
sure.
What are the things that tell us that this is more professional as opposed to amateur? And what I'm really looking for here is like maybe there's because, for example, this is very clean form, and
Hmm.
on top of that, there's also a material distinction. Like in the image that I'm seeing, there's that kind of fabric weave, there's metal, there's
Yeah.
leather. So you have a material distinction, which is going to tell somebody right off the bat, okay, this person, like, they are going for X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
They're not just kind of, hey, here's a sketch and it kind of looks like this.
Yeah, I know.
So what are some of
Well,
the things that kind of like in this image or even in that Captain America one that you showed earlier or any of the Daredevil stuff, like
yeah.
what is it? That's one of the things that's really just says, okay, if you do
Yeah.
this, more professional.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Well, I will show you something.
Yes.
For example, this is yeah, this is just a sketch.
Okay.
Part of the process of the design of the pose, of the design of the things that the character will be surrounded.
Yeah.
Like for example, the base. But the base is just a volume. You know, if you say, okay, I want to apply to a digital sculpture job, and you put this, I think this is not too professional. Uh,
And,
because
and and I should preface for those who can't see this visually that it's freaking beautiful. So
uh, thank you. No, no, but but I mean, but I mean, for example, is unfinished, you know.
yeah, I
So,
get it. I get it.
but if the anatomy looks great, for example, you can say, okay, maybe I will not show this stuff or this thing because it's like you can make people get confused because they will I think they will think, okay, this guy maybe knows just code and anatomy, but if they need to do a belt, they don't know how to do it.
Hmm.
It's like if you show just your process, it's okay, but I will I will say, okay, try to finish it, not finish it with small textures or very small details. But for example, this is a finish. No, this is not finished. This Okay. This is a finished piece. You don't need to to reach this amount of the details. But if you want to show what really you really can do, I think you need to keep working until you can show something finished. Uh, Other way, you are just saying, okay, I'm only know how to sculpt a guy anatomy, but
Hmm.
you're not showing anything else. I showed this because sometimes people ask me about process images.
Right.
For example, like this kind of wrist strap or whatever um, is unfinished, but I can see that maybe this guy know how to finish this because they did this.
Right.
I don't know if you follow me.
Yes. Totally.
If I'm being clear, same as the stick. Uh, I think you need to be very careful because people they're looking for hire other artists. They don't have too much time. They look so many portfolios per day. Uh, they will they would do a quick look, and then if they find something that it really caught their attention, they will look it more in detail. So you need to have something that when they zoom in it or when they open the image, they say, okay, I think this looks, it's not finished, but it looks cool. There is something that caught my attention. Um, for example, you can do, maybe you say, okay, I will design um, a new face for Daredevil. but I don't have the time to do the whole body with the, with everything. So you can do just the face. You can do just and show that you know anatomy, you know the face structures. I'm not saying this is perfect. I'm just taking as an example.
Hmm.
But you can show, for example, that you know how to face sculpt in just one part. You don't need to do everything. For example, in this case, in this image, some part of the body is finished and the gloves are not finished
Mm,
and the boots are just blocking. This is a this is a block for the boots, for example,
right.
and they're not finished, but you just block it. Um, I don't know if I answered your question.
No, that was perfect because what I got out of that was number one of the big problems we face is the question, can this person only do anatomy or can they actually do hard surface? Can they do parts? And
Yeah,
I assume that's a problem people have in hiring is, everybody focuses on the body. So,
yeah,
and then the other thing to that is just making sure that in terms of your presentation, you've gone beyond just pulling together some simple ZBrush demonstrations and getting in and actually rendering out with materials and different parts of it and making things look like objects, stuff like that, right?
yeah, totally. Uh,
Like
for
this is
example, in
padded. There's these padded elements in the legs in the image you're showing, and then the knee is this kind of hard surface.
yeah, hard surface and um, well, I think um, answer a little bit to your previous questions about how to how to show your portfolio, how is the best
Mm-hmm.
way to show it. If you can see, those renders can't take too much time to do it. It's just I pick some colors, different tones,
Yeah.
and to apply it, and then put some lights. All in ZBrush is very easy, um, and you can find a way to to show it to show from some way that you can say, okay, I want to take a better look of this, and you can zoom the images and on open the images and take a deep look. So I think it's so important to understand that you can put some unfinished things, but with other finished stuff
Mm-hmm.
to call their attention. Even if you can give a color to separate. For example, this is black and white. Yeah, for example, this is all the same. It's all gray, and it's okay. Some people want to really take a look for clean images with no colors because some artists say they can cheat some details with colors, which
Mm.
basically is not right. But it is cool to at the same time you are showing um, your stuff with colors without colors too, because in this case you can say, okay, it wasn't anything cheated. It's everything is sculpted. I just put some colors to to display a little bit, and you can see you can have some contrast to take a better look. Um, Even let me know if I find, yeah, for example, the glove. If you see it all in gray, you maybe you don't realize this part will be a different material, and this part will be another material than
Mm.
when the guys print it. So
Separating
uh,
hard surface
yeah,
from fabric, things like that.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Because the other way it looks all in the same shade or with the same material.
Right. Got it. That's great. Oh man, thank you so much. All right, so I think
Okay.
now we will switch from the podcast version. So we'll say goodbye to those people,
Okay.
and then
Okay.
now we will get ourselves into a bit of a crit. I think if you've got like a few more minutes, I'd love to switch
Sure. Sure,
screens
man.
and have you looking at my screen.
Of course.
And hold on one second. I gotta change my screen resolution. Okay, good. Okay, and okay. Okay. All right, guys, start posting your links right now. I'm going to switch so that I am the presenter. I'm going to share my screen. Let me make sure I don't have anything on there that I don't want on there. Post your guys' stuff in there, and there's, well, let's just start there. Okay. Adam's got some questions. Okay, and we'll start with work. So we'll start with Josh. You can see my screen, Danny?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. And Josh, we're going to do character work, I think. Okay. So why don't we look at this stuff? Okay, Jacoby. And you just direct me what you want. And what I like to do in these crits, Danny, it's up to you, but what I like to do is I like to tell them, like, what's one thing that's working, and by working, I mean one thing that communicates that, you can do this for a living, or that you have a chance to do this for a living. And then what's not working, and what might trigger somebody and say, hey, you're still a beginner, you need to focus on X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, okay. No worry. Okay, cool. So can you go back, please, a little bit to the main screen with all the works?
Yes. Okay.
Okay, cool. I always like to do a quick look to all the works, because, like I said, when you have multiple different kind of stuff in your portfolio, you get people confused because they don't know. I think this is my personal opinion, of course, but I think they don't understand of what are you aiming, what things you really want to do. For example, I think Josh really knows 3D, really knows how to sculpt, and how to texture and make cool shaders. I'm seeing that jacket and look awesome. Even the character from the Netflix movie, I can't remember the name, but it looks great too. But at the same time, I see the theater work with the sphere, with the hand doing this kind of stuff. But the theater work, for example, the first one and all the previous work, and I say, okay, I'm a little bit confused. I will suggest to only put your latest jobs. Nobody wants to see your progression. They will, I think, in my opinion, they will hide you because what things you do now. So, in my suggestion would be, okay, the previous works, the first one, the ones that I see at the bottom of the screen, I will take it out, because they have, it's very clear that that was your first, your first sculpts, the one, the order, or maybe, and sometimes people upload all the works to our station, but without chronological, arrangement. So I will put, in my case, in my opinion, I will put the latest first, and the better. I mean, I will pick. You don't need to have, for example, 20 works in which from those 20, just 2 or 3 are good. Just put those 2 or 3, because people will say, okay, I like this, but I don't like this, or I don't like this. I think this doesn't fit with what he's showing. I don't know if I'm being very clear with what I'm explaining.
I think so. What I hear is prepare it for somebody who's going to come and hire, not as a chance to show what I've done, but as a chance to recruit employers.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to show all your stuff just because you are not caring about you don't care about to look for a job, it's okay. But if you're looking for a job and a specific one, I think you need to work and you need to be really careful about that. So my advice would be just show your late jobs and you pick your good ones, uh, the ones that you are sure that looks awesome. For example, the girl with the in gray with the gun in her hand looks great. I can see that you can use a marvelous designer, I think, and the proportions look good, and yeah, it's just something that it's cool. That's cool, but maybe just the that kind of texture in the first row. I think this at the last is it, yeah, the texture. I don't know what's that. Maybe substance designer for. Okay, from the way that I've seen, I can understand is what it does. So maybe I would take it off that. Yeah,
Yeah,
on
that's
some
great.
stuff.
All right, Josh, let
Yeah.
me know if you got a follow up on that. Otherwise, I'm going to jump over to Adam. So this is Adam Beardall, and Adam is in the boot camp. He's working towards a job at, let's say, id Software.
Cool, cool. No, this is a cool stuff. Well, the first thing that I see is too much symmetry. I would suggest to break the symmetry a little bit. You can sculpt entire face with symmetry, but then in some point you can break it. And I always say this, and people uh, tell me, "Okay, then I will do that. This is just a test." Okay, but you are showing this big, so if you will show it, try to finish it as best as possible. And part of that finish that you need to do is break the symmetry. I think, in my opinion, of course, that no matter how what kind of style do you have, symmetrical face is not too very good to show. But I mean, the proportions and the face structures looks nice. I love the eye part, all the eye part that looks awesome. I think that he really knows about the face structure. Um, Maybe the nose is a little bit wide, but depending, of course, on the reference that you took, that you used for create this head. But I think he is in a good path.
Cool. Great. Okay,
Yep.
and Adam, you have. Oh, okay. So this is the character he's working on, and we'll show. Yeah, we'll start with
Oh,
the grayscale. So no, there's the grayscale. So it started here, and
yep.
then it moved on to here. And actually, I want to show before we get into the texture, Adam. I really want to show
Hmm.
the grayscale. Grayscale just shows better, I think. Okay, so there's early texturing version. It's looking cool. And there we go. All right, so here's an early grayscale. And then we go from here into now he's getting the texturing done. And
Wow. Looks
yeah,
awesome.
okay. And yeah,
Yeah,
there we go.
looks awesome. Yeah. Okay, this is the final one.
Yeah, these are the two
Yeah,
final,
cool,
most
cool.
recent.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a creature guy, but of course I love to see those creatures. But what I can see is a very well known anatomy applied. Uh, Very well created this kind of monster thing. I think all the things that in terms of anatomy are very very cool. I always think if you put hands, arms, and legs, the anatomy needs to work like a human because it's a humanoid creature. So all the things that you're doing, like pectorals, abdominals, deltoids, and everything needs to be very, very similar to the human. Maybe my only critique is on deltoids. That looks a little bit. I can see a kind of cat between a cat seam between um, the anterior part of the deltoid with contraction in the when the deltoid meets the bicep. I see a kind of line there. Maybe that, yeah, that kind of line. In this same view, you can see it better in the other arm than you can see an arm. Of course, you can say this is maybe that's a cat of a knife or something like that,
Hmm.
but I don't think so. Anyway, maybe you need to blend a little bit more this part of the skin with uh, with the bicep. But it looks awesome. I mean, looks really. This picture is amazing.
Awesome. All right, great. Couple more guys. There was, where is it? Robert. Okay, Robert Fernandez. Roberto. Sorry, Roberto. I always do that.
Bueno.
Yep. Okay.
Oh, cool. I have shark phobia, so please don't open that shark.
And Roberto, are you still in Brazil?
Looks too realistic. That shark looks too realistic. Okay. Well, I can see this guy really knows how to sculpt. So this is awesome because this is the quick look that I really love to do. Um, I see like a pattern. It's the same. I can see faces. I can see, of course, a little bit of anatomy. The only character that I think it's not in the same level is the Mike Tyson figurine, the 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 cartoon one. I will, yeah, it's very well done. And if it's a sculpture for a collectible, it's okay. I mean, if in the same way, but if it's just a model 3D model that you did, I will take it out because it's nothing too related with the rest. But yeah, it's awesome. Maybe this the skeleton, the skull. Yeah, the skull is not. I don't know exactly if I would suggest to take it off that skull too, um, because it looks more like a study or something like that. But I mean, the Green Goblin face looks awesome. Um, yeah, it's an average awesomeness.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Roberto. Okay, and I got two more I would love to get your feedback on, and then we will call it a day, guys. We hit Josh up. Not that. Let's start with Wilson. Wilson's goal is to be over here in Naughty Dog, right? So it's the goal for a lot of
Hmm.
people. But what it would be really neat is just to get some feedback in terms of how he's approaching anatomy, and you and I've been in this game long enough. It's not necessarily the muscles, but just like if you can divine some of his thinking and what might be going might be useful or what might not, what might he need to start to think about.
Okay, the anatomy, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think the most thing that people usually do is um, like do like a cat, like I'm seeing now, to separate all the masses of the muscle.
Hmm.
So, for example, I can see the biceps very clear. I can see the flexors uh, and I don't know how to say in English the other part of the opposite part of the flexors in the forearms.
Hmm.
But I can see all those things very separate, and I think there is too much. Maybe the legs, of course, need a little bit more work. But I will approach a different way. Um, I will try to um, take it more from reference than from equity models. You can use equity models to understand how the because equity model is a guy basically without skin and without uh, um, uh, I can't remember the word of the uh, grasa in Greece, you say? Fat. I'm sorry, without the fat and skin. So you can use it as a reference, and it's okay. But I would like to suggest to do it from zero because I think this the model that ZBrush has, right?
Uh,
The
Nick Zuccarello's figure, yes.
Yeah, Nick Zuccarello, right? So if you are studying anatomy, I would suggest to do it from zero. I mean, because it's easier when you have all the volumes and the proportions done. But when you need to do everything from scratch. At that moment, you realize if you really understand anatomy and proportion, or if you don't. So I would suggest to to start from a different perspective. I don't know, maybe creating from spheres using C-spheres or whatever, but not using uh, already a body which is basically already done. I don't know if I answered the question,
Yeah,
but
I think so. So if he's going to study anatomy, do it from the beginning. But if you are looking to create a base mesh, don't do the anatomy so much as look at your reference and try to find the bigger forms.
yeah, totally.
Okay, cool. Let's take
Yeah,
a quick
yeah,
look
yeah.
at Adam. And this is a little old, but Adam, you left me no choice since I don't have an update yet. But any thoughts to help Adam kind of start to lock the face in?
Yeah. Well, same as the previous one, and not the previous one. You need to break the symmetry. Symmetry is always something that you can see at the first sight. You can break a little bit with the nose. You can do this exercise, download any kind of image from Google, front images on the face, then put it in Photoshop, and cut it in half and mirror it, and you now you realize that's an alien because because we we don't are symmetrical. So this is the first thing that I would suggest: break symmetry. Um, yeah, maybe work with reference. I think for the base structure, you can use all the reference um, from Andrew Loomis. Andrew Loomis has some very cool stuff in terms of how he ensembled and he did all the structure lines for like a guidelines. So you can use that in Photoshop and then use transparent. You put like this kind of photo. You transparent it. Um, and compare with what these guys did with the structure. It's all based on the structure. You don't need to put any kind of details until you have a good structure in your face. I think my opinion. So maybe he need to study about a little bit more about the sizes and the proportions. This is looks right, but I mean I'm not saying this is it's unproportionate. But maybe the eyes are maybe too big. Um, but of course, depending on the reference on the or maybe the kind of character you're wanting to create.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
All right, sorry. Can I talk you into one more?
of course, man.
Tatiana.
Sure.
And she's past the marvelous designer phase, and now she's in here, and we're about to move into the low res. But here you go.
Okay, cool. This looks great. Um, yeah, I think this is awesome. This is a good start. I don't know if she will pose it or what kind of model, what's the aiming of this model. That when you do so many details and then the pose will be very not the strain, but I don't know. For example, this character will raise her arms, and for sure, all those beautiful details that you have in your sleeves will disappear or will break. So, of course, if you're doing this for gaming, you need to do a low res, like you said, um, and then with the rig, you will solve that problem. But I think this proportions look awesome. The face, as far as I can see, it looks great too. The hair is blocked, so it's okay. Maybe she will put it then uh, with more detail. Um, I think it's very well. Yeah, it's very well.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Tatiana says, great. Danny, man, thank you so much for taking the time, my friend.
Uh, Thanks to you for inviting me
Yep.
for this opportunity. It was awesome. Um, well, thanks, man. Really, really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, I really appreciate your insight and your wisdom on this. All right, guys, we're going to post this up in the network. As always, pop in there one thing you learned from this. And if you want to find Danny, it's just Daniel Bell. Let me get your art. Oh, hold on, my screen's doing funky
Oh,
things.
by Facebook,
Yeah.
it's better. Yeah.
Oh,
It's on
Facebook.
Facebook. Yeah, Facebook is better. I will answer faster.
Okay, I managed to get myself into drawing mode. There we go. Jeez. Okay, Daniel Bell. I'm like, I know software. Yes. What's your Facebook?
It's Daniel Bel, but with one L, just one L. Yep,
Daniel M. Bell by chance? Or
that
Daniel?
that's me. Yeah, the first one.
Awesome. All right, there you go.
Yep.
That's how you guys find Danny. And he's made it. So, he's at Sideshow. That's like the cream of the crop. So pop over there and get some questions answered. And how do you know Eric, by the way? I forgot to talk to you about that.
Eric Wilson.
Yeah.
I well with Eric. I can't remember exactly when, and how I met him. But the other day he was doing an necrochi model, an amazing necrochi model with based on some scans.
Yeah.
So he asked me if I would like to join, in the courses or doing those stuff, and I said,
Yeah.
okay, I'm really really busy here,
Yeah.
but I can give you a hand with some renders if you want. So I did some renders about his model,
Yeah.
and I think Eric is an awesome, nice guy, and of course an amazing artist.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what he does because we've talked a lot about the classes and all that stuff that he's working on, and he's always been behind the scenes over at Anatomy Tools and Masters
Yeah,
Academy. So it's like I'm excited
yeah.
he wanted to do something partner, and I told him just go do your own thing, and then I'll come and do stuff with you. But I want him.
Uh,
It's cool to see. It'll be cool to see
yeah,
him kind of own all of that and just share with everybody all of his anatomy knowledge because it's just insane what that guy knows.
yeah, insane, and that will be the best reference for all the artists who really are looking for a great reference.
Yeah.
Eric Wilson model, it would be amazing.
Yeah. All right. Take care, Danny. Thank you so much again, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
All
Bye
right.
bye, guys.
Bye. Take care, guys. Thanks for joining.
Take care.
Ciao.